Do you remember when your relationship with Zendaya pivoted from a professional one to something that you seem much closer than just work friends?
We've been together more than half her life. We've been through a lot of things together, great things and some traumatic things for me. And just watch her grow into a woman and then this actress and her watching me grow up and then grow into like this thing that I've become and us doing it together and really being by each other's side every day since 2011, basically.
Wow.
It's so funny, we laugh sometimes, like when we get dressed, I'm like, girl, I changed your diapers. But it feels like we've been around each other for that long. It's a beautiful, honest relationship.
Recently, those AI photos of her wedding dress came out as her image architect. How do you react to that?
That dress was disgusting. I'm like, did you guys think that's the best I could do?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Obsessed the Podcast. I'm Kevin Fallon, here to guide you through all the TV shows, movies, and pop culture nonsense that we think is unmissable. And today's guest is Law Roach. Law is not just a celebrity stylist, he is the celebrity stylist. He's most famous for his work with Zendaya, Ariana Grande, and Celine Dion, just to name a few. And now he's about to start a second season judging on Project Runway, which is one of my favorite reality shows. I have never missed an episode of it, and let me tell you, he brings the shade like no one else. He is so good on this show. Law trademarked the term image architect, which is apt because if you look at his work with people like Zendaya, he has completely revolutionized how we think about red carpets and press tours and celebrity fashion. He is so fun to talk to. We talk all about his relationship with Zendaya. We talk about why he's such a perfect fit on Project Runway. And we talk about fashion trends, of course. So here it is, my interview with Law Roach. Hello, Law Roach.
Hi.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
I feel like I should be addressing you as like your highness or your majesty. I feel like I'm in the presence of royalty right now.
Really? Well, thank you.
Yeah, fashion royalty for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about Project Runway, which is coming back. This is your second season.
Second season. It's 22 seasons of Project Runway is my second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're still a new one to the Project Runway fold.
I'm a baby.
You're making a big impact right away. How do you like judging? I know I've watched you judge on Legendary, on Drag Race.
Yes.
Now you're doing Project Runway.
Yeah.
Is this something you enjoy?
I do. I think I enjoy television, and I enjoy letting people who know me for one thing kind of see me do another.
Mm-hmm.
But I've actually been on television for over a decade. I started on America's Next Top Model.
That's right.
I did the last two seasons of America's Next Top Model, 24 and 25, I believe. And then I went on to do Legendary, and Julia Fox had a short-lived reality show that I did with her, a competition show as well. And then Drag Race, and now Project Runway.
Yeah.
I still do Drag Race, actually, so.
Did you find that it suited you right away? Is it something that you sort of knew that you would be good at, or was it a process that sort of had to be unlocked within you to become a good judge?
I think there's a very cunty part of me.
You don't say. I've never seen that.
That loves to be freed every now and again. But yeah, I think when I started, it just felt natural to me for some reason.
Yeah.
And especially when you put me in a place where I talk about things that I know about, Project Runway is about, design and the fashion industry. And so those are things that I, can consider myself an expert at.
Mm-hmm.
And, RuPaul, the same thing. RuPaul, I speak a lot about the costumes and the wardrobe and even just pop culture. And so I think that when it just all feels kind of easy and like second nature almost. Yeah.
Was reading something that you were always good at? I mean, there are times, I imagine when you say some of these lines, you must think like, oh, I just ate that. Like that was a good line that I just gave. So something that was always like a part of your vocabulary?
So let me tell you, so when I first started doing America's Next Top Model, the first season, Rita Ora was the host, Tyra wasn't there. And one day I get a phone call from Tyra, and she's like, you speak in sound bites. And I was like, I had no idea what a sound bite was. I'm like, what is that? She said, well, the last line that someone says before it goes to commercial, she's like, that's a sound bite. And so I never knew that I spoke that way. And maybe it just kind of developed a little bit more throughout the years, being able to think that way, but it's just all really natural and authentic. And I'm just like, you know,
You're born to be on TV,
I
apparently.
think so, hopefully.
I mean, when you say something that's like one of those sound bites, do
Yeah.
you recognize it right away? Like, I just said something
No,
great.
I don't.
Really? It's just
No,
the way you naturally speak.
Yeah, it's not the way I naturally speak. I think I speak like that in my daily life too. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just natural.
I love your perspective as a judge on Project Runway because you're coming from a place where you see if a garment is going to work for a client. You're coming from like a not commercial space, but
A
like
stylist.
yeah, and I
perspective,
think
yeah.
that's a really unique perspective to have on a show like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and I think it's needed because I think for the most part when people design, you know, they want to have a viable business, but they also want to dress their favorite celebrity. And, you know, I've been able to dress so many people's favorite celebrities. So I think giving them a little inside view on things that'll make that dream come to fruition is a service to them, you know, and I think I enjoy that part of it.
Who on the panel do you agree with most often or disagree with most often?
Basically, I totally agree with Nina for most because she's an editor and she's been doing this for so long at Elle Magazine, and she's also been a judge on Project Runway for so long.
Yeah.
And I think that she is one of the chicest women in the world. And she also comes from a very similar point of view, right? I'm thinking as a stylist, and she's thinking as an editor, like what would be good on the pages of her magazine, and I think what would be good on the body of my clients.
Yeah.
So our perspectives are very same, similar, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is a mistake that a Project Runway contestant most often makes? Like, what do you think is like something they do that's just a disappointing misfire for a competition like that?
I think it's the trying to be different for the sake of being different, you know, or trying to be like do something very unique when it's not called for. Because I come from a place, I think a beautiful gown is just a beautiful gown, you know?
Beautiful gowns, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think sometimes you don't need all the bells and whistles, and it's like, I think it's just, it's like food, right? The most delicious food and the hardest food to compose is the more simple things. You know, it's harder to do something that's beautiful and delicious with 5 ingredients as opposed to 25 ingredients. And I think that fashion and clothing and design shares that a lot.
Yeah. Like doing something basic well is almost the
Yes.
hardest thing you can do.
Yes, yes.
Do you when these works are coming down the runway and you're seeing these new designers who are looking for a career boost, do you think about like what it would mean for them if someone like you commissioned a look from them and put it on one of your clients?
Yeah, I think what happens is you get millions and millions and millions of dollars of free advertising.
Yeah.
You know, depending on who the client is and the event and all those things. And my thing is, I really want these kids, these designers to have a sustainable business that can bear the weight of something like that. Because when you get all that attention and everybody's calling, all these things calling, you need to be ready. You know, it's like when you give a great elevator pitch. You know, like if somebody takes the pitch, then where you go from that. So I like to give those opportunities to people. I think that can sustain it.
Yeah, I had a friend, Tyra, who was on the show before you started. He was a guy he did that meme, not even to dinner with the Kushners. But he can speak to the fact that it really is, like you said, it's an elevator pitch to the world, and it really boosted his business after he was on that show. It's a really amazing thing that this show does for designers.
And I think that's what I think back in the day in reality TV and especially things like that, people came because they really wanted to win the show. I don't think people really come to these shows to win the show anymore. They come because they understand that it's great marketing and exposure for the brand or for that thing that they're selling, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
I just think that we are dealing with a more educated competitor these days. You know?
And like you had mentioned before, Tyra Banks is joining the panel this
Yes.
year, a reunion for you from working with her on Top Model.
Yes.
What do you remember about meeting her and your, the start of a relationship with her?
How incredibly beautiful she is.
Of course.
Like Tyra is one of the real true beauties. And I was looking at the first episode of the show yesterday actually in the car, and I was like, that is a really pretty girl.
She is.
She is stunningly gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she has always been. Yeah.
And she's someone too who's, I think, in a great way, and certainly as good TV, she's always been sort of a polarizing figure on television, especially now with those documentaries that came out about Top Model. But what do you think it is about her that is so striking, that she is making such an impression on people, that she conjures so many opinions, and again is great television that way?
Right. I think outside of her personality, she's a producer, and she understands the cadence of reality TV. You know what I mean? And she understands the things that track. I think we have to think that she was a producer on that show, and she created that show, Top Model, and that show lived for many, many, many years. So just think the level of experience that she has as being a producer. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's able to produce herself.
And what do you think that she's brought to the judging panel for Project Runway?
I think she's just brought. It's just a different perspective, right? And it's a certain nuance that she brings.
Yeah. When you were considering joining the panel, what were you thinking about in terms of what you could bring that would be different, that the show needed, that only like sort of your voice would be able to bring? What were you thinking about?
What did you think?
Like I was saying before,
right, you know the history of what I do on these shows, like, and I think that's what they needed. Yeah. I think they needed a little spice.
Yeah,
you know, for lack of a better term.
And you bring the seasoning. One of the things that I think you've done really well to sort of change how people think about this industry is really bringing to the forefront this term image architect.
Yes.
Why has it been important to you to have that description and have an awareness of that be something that more people now know about?
Well, when I first started my career, it was, in the time, the rise of, Instagram and everything, and everybody was so multi-hyphenate, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, stylist, makeup artist, and it was all these things, choreographer and all these things, and, and it was so many people that were self-proclaimed stylists. And I wanted to do something that would kind of like set me apart from everyone else. But also when I really thought about the work that I was doing, it was never a thing that I wanted to just put pretty girls in pretty dresses, right? I wanted to be part of the building of their images, right? And so when I thought about that and thought about what I was doing, in my self-reflection, it was, I'm not just choosing a dress, like I'm really at the ground level of building someone's image, right? And everything that means. And so when I did the comparison, it really felt like what an architect does for a building or a structure. You start out at the foundation, right? You start out at the dirt, and then you build a blueprint of what these things are going to be, and you hire all these like contractors, you hire a contractor and they contract in, windows and floors and electricity and all that. And for me, it was the right hair and makeup people and the right dress. And so when I did that comparison, I'm like, oh, I am an architect, but I'm just doing it for someone's image and not a structure or a building.
Right.
So the similarities were really, really were interesting. And once I figured all that out, I trademarked that term. So I'm the only image architect in the world. Yeah, no, that term has been trademarked for over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was really smart to do that.
Thank you.
I remember, for example, when Zendaya was dressing in theme to her movies with Challengers and Dune and all that, and just how innovative that seemed.
Yeah.
How do you, when an opportunity like that presents itself, how do you come up with the idea like, oh, we're going to actually do this theme to an entire film for a press tour?
Well, I think we've been doing it for a long time. So I think we probably started Greatest Showman, right? And she wore this Armani look that looked so much like a ringmaster's costume. And, we kept doing it. And what we found out, the more we did it, the more entertaining people thought it was. And it didn't have a name. And I think when the Barbie movie came around, somebody coined method dressing.
Right.
Right. But, they definitely didn't start it. We didn't start it. But I think that we've been able to really maybe solidify it and solidify ourselves in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just fun.
Yeah.
Like, it is just so fun to do the research and find these dresses and to storytell. And I think that's what people really enjoy about my work and also our work together.
Yeah, and you saying people enjoy it, that's actually true. It's made it more fun for me to get involved in press tours and red carpets and fashion journeys, things that maybe necessarily I wasn't aware of before, but because of something like this, I get really into it, and it's really, really fun.
I think my favorite one was Challenges, though, because Tashi Duncan didn't exist. So we were able to create a whole world around her. And it was really interesting to see from that press tour how tennis court like moved to the forefront of culture. And I don't think anybody had ever saw that being done that way based on a press tour.
Yeah.
Like I think I went into maybe Walmart or Target, and like soon as you walked in, it was like tennis court, and we created a digital magazine called Challengers, and she was the first cover starter. So we really took this character that no one knew and made her feel like a real person through the clothes. And that was quite interesting, as opposed to like, her and Spider-Man and, being MJ and all that. These people have been around, and Barbie's been around, and, we watched Barbie for 60 years and we know all those outfits. But to take this character that's, who's not real and to kind of like inject her into pop culture. And I thought that was really interesting, and really I showed the power of what method dressing could do.
Yeah. And she looked so hot in all those outfits.
Thank you so much.
Do you remember when your relationship with Zendaya pivoted from a professional one to something that clearly you seem much closer than just work friends right now?
Well, I think we've been together more than half our life, and it's like we've literally grown up together, and we've been through a lot of things together, great things and some traumatic things for me, and just watch her grow into a woman and then this actress, and I think her watching me grow up and then grow into like this thing that I've become, and us doing it together and really being by each other's side every day since 2011 basically.
Wow.
So it's like
15 years.
Yeah, she turns 30 this year, so it's like I've been around her half her life. I always feel like it's so funny. We laugh sometimes, like when we get dressed. I'm like, girl, I changed your diapers, but it feels like we've been around each other for that long.
Yeah,
and, it's a beautiful, really, really beautiful, honest relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things about her is that she seems to have a really great humility and sense of humor about herself. Like I remember when recently those AI photos of her wedding dress came out. And she told just a really nice story about how even her family was fooled by them and all of that.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate about her, but I'm curious for you as her image architect.
Yeah.
When something like that happens, these AI photos, how do you react to that?
I reacted to that dress was disgusting. I'm like, did you guys think that's the best I could do? The dress was so basic and horrible, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so clearly you also have a good sense of humor about things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we have a good sense of humor about everything because it's, at the end of the day, it's just entertainment.
Yeah. And it is entertainment. And that's a thing that I think has really expanded and sort of spiked in recent years, where these red carpets and these looks and the fashion are almost becoming as important as a part of publicity as interviews and
it is
and features for
it is. I'm advocating that that some of this becomes part of the marketing budget for the film, because it's like it's metrics to support that that this these type of things are putting butts in the seats.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if we are working hard and we're doing that, and we creating these micro campaigns for these movies, I think that we should be compensated for that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say we, I mean me.
Most importantly, put that in the contract.
Me, yeah.
But it also, like you said, it's doing a great service to the arts too, because
Yeah.
the attention that, you know, one of these Zendaya method dressing press
Yeah.
tours gets for the film is getting butts in those seats. It's
Yeah.
saving cinemas. It's getting
It's
people to
selling
look at art
tickets,
again.
yeah. It's true. It's true. And it's not like it's a, you know, it's like it's theoretical. It's not theoretical. There are numbers to justify that and to you know, to prove that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think is the future of that then? If like right now we're on a trend where there is more awareness of the significance of these
Mhm.
press tours and the fashion in them,
Mhm.
where do you think we go from where we are at this moment?
I mean, I think it goes back to just kind of like what I said. I think it should be rewarded. It literally should be rewarded. And you know, I'll take the drama press tour. You know, this is a small independent film, and you know, we came up with this whole idea of, you know, the something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue,
Right.
and that you can see how that campaign on social media really drove people to have interest in the movie because nobody actually knew what the movie was about.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, but
It had that big
following,
twist.
it did have a big twist, but following that, you
Mhm.
know, I think it's, and you know, and you can see, and I just like to call it these micro campaigns. You can really see that it's working, and it's almost in the same realm as what like influencers do, right? It's just we are influencing through fashion to have people be more interested in these products.
Yeah.
I mean, these projects, I should say, and you know, I think it should be taken a little bit more seriously.
Mm-hmm. There's a person I want to ask you about because she's my absolute favorite, and I'm
Yes.
dying to know what your relationship with her is like.
Yes.
Miss Celine Dion.
Yes, Madame Celine Dion.
I am obsessed with her.
Yes.
What has your relationship been like with her, and how has that evolved over the years?
So I love her. Let's say that. I adore her. Celine changed my life. I mean, she's done so much. I think Celine actually made me so much of a better stylist.
Mhm.
When I first started working with her, I was working with Zendaya, I was working with Ariana, but you know, we are talking about working with two girls who were very new to the industry, right? And to go and work with someone who was a 30-year vet at that time, you know, it's a different process. Like I really walked into a machine working with Celine, and she made me. I'll give you a great story. It's a great story.
Great.
So you said great. Our very first fitting, we were trying on a gown, and you know, she put the gown on. We go to the mirror, and in seconds, she was able to see everything that was wrong with it. She would say, "Oh, you know, I think the sleeve is a little too long. The hem is a little too long. I would love to take a little." It's a terrible Celine impersonation, but just go with me. She and the waist is yeah, and I think, you know, and all these things, and I'm watching her do this, and then she turns to me. She said, "What do you think?" You know, and I was kind of stuck because I'm watching her see all the imperfections, and I didn't see anything that she didn't see. And so the next time that we had a fit in, it challenged me to see the things before she saw them. So the next time we had to fit in, and we go to the mirror, we stand in the mirror, I say, oh no, right away, madam. I say, oh no, we need to take a little bit out of the neck, and we need to do a little bit out the waist, and I think the hem is too short. We need to drop the hem maybe like a quarter of an inch. And and then she looked at me and she said, I agree. So it challenged me to be better because had I not been able to do that, what value was I adding? You know, and so those skill sets is what I took back to my clients and what I've used for my clients right away. Because right now, you put me in a fitting with anyone, like soon as the dress is on, I can tell you right away how to fix it and how to make it better. But that was my training from Celine, you know. And another thing that I always say she said to me, I never forget, we were rushing out and I was trying to buckle her shoe, and I was, you know, fumbling with the button and with the buckle, and she said, take your time, it goes faster. You know, these things from this ultimate diva. And also kindness. You know, I would go places with Celine and she would stop and say hello to every single person
Yeah.
and introduce herself. Kindness is what I learned from her. And
I love to hear that about her.
oh my gosh, she's so kind, and she'll introduce herself at the beginning of whatever we're doing, and at the end she'll say goodbye and thank you to everyone. And it means so much for people to be seen from someone like that.
Yeah.
And so I learned that, and we still have a great relationship. We did a performance in Saudi maybe a couple years ago. You know, I did her for the cover of French Vogue. She had never been on cover of any Vogue before, and I thought that was insane. And so we did a shoot for French Vogue, and this is right after she was becoming better from the illness. So yeah,
harrowing.
Yeah,
I mean, the documentary of her dealing with that was, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can tell how important she is to you because, obviously she's the person who brought you out of your retirement for that
For the
2024
Grammys.
Grammy look,
Yeah.
that amazing
Valentino
the
coat.
overcoat over the chiffon dress.
Yeah. And she asked for me to do that, and I thought that was really flattering. Like, you know, if I ever work with her again or not, like the contribution she made to my career and my life and just me as a person, I will forever be, grateful to her for that.
Yeah. One of, I think, at least for me, the most fascinating things about you is you studied psychology
Yes.
in college.
Yes.
I'm curious how you feel like that sort of made you a unique presence in the fashion industry and in the field that you work in. How did that, do you think, develop something in you that is so different and special?
Well, I think what people don't understand, like 80% of my job is psychology, right? It's understanding women, right? And everything that it means to be a woman, and to be able to listen, and not only to the words, but also to recognize nonverbal cues, right? You know, and patience, and grace, because I think there's a lot that women have to go through life just being women, and then when you put incredible success on top of that, and to be able to be graceful, and also it's also about the psychology of who else is in the room. It's the gatekeepers and
Right.
and all the things that you also have to be mindful of, and and also the way I approach putting a look together. That's psychology. There's a theory in psychology called the Gestalt theory, meaning the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? And so for me, it's like the look belongs to me, and it's not. We can't be separated. It can't be like a hair look and a makeup look and then a dress. Like this, they have to all work together. And so those are things I learned in psychology, and to be able to lead a team in a way.
Yeah.
So I think that training helped me a lot without me even knowing it.
And I think also watching you on TV, I think that makes you more present than I think a lot of people who are, TV personalities are. Like, I think, for example, it's the clip that always comes on my social media feed of you and Keke during Legendary.
Yes.
She's, giving you a bit of a talking
read,
to.
yeah.
and you listen to her and you're like, you just ate that.
Right.
And there's a version of someone in your position that would shut down or yell back or not listen.
Yeah.
But like in that moment, you were able to recognize what she was saying.
I was the therapist. And I was letting her get all her thoughts and emotions and feelings out. And, and the thing about it is that you have to be open to hear somebody else's perspective. You know what I mean? And so I was like, okay, you ate that.
So there's one last thing I want to ask you about, and it's because it's one of my current pet peeves with men's fashion.
Yes.
People are dressing like I did when I was in 7th grade, with those baggy jeans, oversized shirts. I don't understand why, when you are a movie star with that kind of body, you are swimming in clothes that make you look like the Michelin Man, or like again what I wore for my 8th grade yearbook photo. What is going on with that?
You know what? I don't really have. Well, I really like when people dress that age. First of all, so I can agree to you some in some sort to that, but also I think also sometimes it's just a comfort thing, and a security thing. You know, sometimes when I'm not feeling quite as confident about my body or whatever, I like to, you know, pile big things on and cover. And it can also be chic. My thing, I have a bigger gripe though.
Okay.
I think in some ways the clothes are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. You know what I mean? And because I think the models the male models are getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Age of Ozempic.
Yeah.
we're
You know,
back.
it's this obsession with this boyish type of beauty that I think is a little weird to me when you're selling clothes to men. You know, or whatever.
Well, clearly I am not a fashionable person, or at least not a fashion forward person. But what I appreciate about what you do is that through your work with your clients, you create some accessibility for someone like me where I can be really interested and entertained by fashion.
I want to bring you in.
Let's do it. Let's have you style me for the next episode.
You know, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Congrats on your second season of Project Runway.
I know. I hope you watch it.
Oh, I have not missed an episode of that show in 22 seasons.
Really?
Believe you me. Of course not. Yeah. I'm obsessed with that show.
Really? So what did you think about when I joined the cast?
I was so excited. Like I was saying before, no one does a read like you do. And the humor, it's humorous, but it's also so insightful, and it's what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And you present it in a way that makes me laugh at home, but I think also that the contestants benefit from.
Because let me tell you this, I have never ran into a contestant on any show I've ever been on and them not running to me to hug and kiss me and to say that they understood and they grew from what I told them. You know, and people have to understand that it's television, it's entertainment. You know, it has to have some level of that, or it's just boring. But I think they understand that what I say to them, you know, the delivery may be one thing, but the advice is coming from a place of love. That I only want them to be better. And literally, I not one single time from any show I've ever been on that people have come to me and
that's really important because there's a version of a judge in your place that could be considered a villain on a show like this, and that's not what's happening with you at all.
But I'll take that. I take that I'm the villain of the show. I think every show needs a Simon Cowell. I think that structure that was built so long ago to Paula, you know, who was the nice, and Randy, and then Simon, who was always to tell it like it is. I think it's a formula, and I think it works in television. And I think that people do cast me to play that position, but mine is also grounded in life experience and skill and work, you know, and real world things. So yeah.
You bring the expertise.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell the people when they can watch the new season premiere.
The new season of Project Runway premieres July 9th on Freeform, Hulu, and Disney+.
Awesome. So stream that, y'all.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Law.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much, Law. You're so much fun to talk to. You can watch Project Runway on July 9th on Freeform and the next day on Disney Plus and Hulu. What was your favorite part of the interview? Did you enjoy hearing all about Zendaya and Celine Dion like I did? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, subscribe to us on YouTube at The Obsessed channel. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like me, subscribe to my Substack at obsessed.substack.com. Thank you to our producer, Rachel Passer, and we'll see you next time.